Hey, Power Athlete. This is Jack. I've got a question for you based off the Brandon Lilly podcast episode. I know, John, you mentioned you're a huge fan of cast iron, and so am I, and I don't know if I'm venturing into the weird category of nutrition.
Well, if you got to ask, you probably
I've really moved away from cast iron because most cast iron pans need to be seasoned with flaxseed oil or grapeseed oil or some highly processed industrial seed oil. I know one of the huge rules at Power Athlete is don't be weird, especially with nutrition, but I'm just wondering, have you guys found a suitable replacement to season a cast iron pan that isn't going to make you sick long term?
Where to begin?
A two-parter. Well, first, let's start with the cast iron. How long do you think cast iron pans have been in existence?
I don't know the answer to that.
Let's look it up. Well, It looks like cast iron pans were first used in the Han Dynasty in China around 220 AD. Casting techniques became widespread in Europe in the 16th century. I wonder how they seasoned their pans in 2020 AD in China. Do you think that they were using highly processed seed oils?
No.
Fat. Do you think in the 16th century in England, they were going out and processing flaxseed for them to season their pans?
I don't even think they knew what a flaxseed was.
No. Jesus. Dude, no, we don't use high processed seed oils. I use either tallow or beef lard. So like a non-crazy person that doesn't subscribe to the internet, I've seasoned it both using lard, animal fat, which is a pretty good one. I've done 500 for an hour, maybe even a little bit longer. I've like preheated the pan. I've done a couple different. We have these bitchin' butter pad pans that I got through the Cowboy Cauldron people. And since I gifted you, because, I went over to your house and you had some really abysmal pans and needed to gift you with some badass cast iron ones. So what I found is I use animal fat. I've used beef tallow or lard for all my casting of pans. I don't use vegetable seed. I don't use grapeseed or rapeseed or flaxseed or any of that, even though I know people do because it's cheap. That's the biggest reason, because it's a cheap way to do it. You spend a couple $100s on a really nice cast iron pan. I'm not fucking using flaxseed oil in it. I'm going to go and get some bitchin' tallow. I'm going to get something from the butcher, and I'm going to do it right like they probably did hundreds, thousands of years ago, not using seed oil. So to squash that one, go find some beef tallow, go get some lard, anywhere you want to do it. You can go and get it at Whole Foods. I guarantee they have lard at Whole Foods.
Is ghee lard?
No, ghee is actually a process or made from butter.
Oh,
so
I use ghee.
Use ghee.
Is that a negative?
I don't use butter because it tends to burn pretty easy, whereas the beef tallow and that one gets real hot. So and when I season pans, I don't season them in the house. That's another big one. So what I did when I seasoned my pan is I put it out on the Cowboy Cauldron, built a monster fire, put it on there. Because if you put it in enough and you do it right, it's going to spit and pop and totally fuck up your kitchen. So I remember one time I preheated the pan thinking I could do that. That was another one I did. But you got to be able to smoke that sucker. And then you just have to be super consistent with using it. I either use coconut oil or I'll use some form of duck fat, and I use a bunch of different stuff. Whenever it's done, I always let it cool down, pour a little water in it, let it sit overnight, let everything get kind of soft, and then I'll take like a bristle pad brush and I kind of brush everything off, and then I wipe it down, or actually don't wipe it down, put it on the stove wet, turn on the heat, let it heat up. Once it starts to get dry, I'll put oil back in it, wipe it all out with a paper towel, and then I let it sit, and it's ready for the next time. And I found that, the first couple times you cook on it, you're going to skunk the pan. The problem is don't go in there and scrub it. You got to soak it overnight. Just put some water in it, let everything get broken up. Use a little bit of bristle, or not a bristle pad, just like one of the nylon brushes, and you kind of brush them. And then once they look kind of chalky and dry, put it on there, heat it back up, and then put the oil back on it.